Welcome back to the 7th grade Mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about social opiates, the feels. Take a walk amongst a busy marketplace and simply observe the people. A small percentage will be using their cell phones while shopping. Most, but not all of those people in that marketplace will have at least one social media account, or at least having deleted a social media app from their phones. So convenient, yet deceptively dangerous. They are dangerous both physically and psychologically. These phones are simply tools. For you, it is the most convenient form of communication ever known. Consider the fact that Israeli intelligence is utilizing phones to track and control their own population. The former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak started a company called Carbine 911, and they have a new program called NextGen 911. It is a multi-platform police call response system. It privatizes and moves local 911 call centers into a centralized, non-local location, essentially under Israeli control. It takes control of the camera and microphones on your phone and retains access for an unspecified time. This would not be possible without the continuous payouts for American politicians and defense contractors willing to sell out American freedoms for globalist status and international intrigue. This group includes Christian evangelical eschatologists and, yes, Moloch worshippers. Now, there's a policy document that the Biden administration has been using regarding the war on domestic terror states. Americans disagreeing with one another is the main source of violence in this country, is what this document states. I'll say it again. Americans disagreeing with one another is the main source of violence in this country. So therefore, that is bad for freedom. The list of types of people that eventually become domestic terrorists include individuals that resist corporate expansion, people who dissent or have non-popular opinions regarding the government or politicians. So essentially what this is some type of George Orwell Department of Information type of scenario where we tell you how to think, and if you get out of line, you will be punished.
If you disagree with what's out there, you become a terrorist right away. And people, me and you had talked about this years ago. Remember when they were doing the training after 9/11? And they were training all these FBI agents, and based on that training, they put the founding fathers on the board, and they said, "Who's a terrorist?" All based on the way that shit was written, all the founding fathers, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, all of them are considered terrorists based on the new criteria for terrorism. So basically telling you, if you disagree with us, you're a terrorist.
So these employees, these agents that are working for this domestic terrorist agency, they're contractors for misinformation, as they've been called, that worked as bounty hunters for insurgents in the Iraqi and Afghanistan wars. And they're now working on domestic terror teams scrutinizing American behavior. So because there's no big war to fight, they've turned the aggression inward toward the American people.
They got nothing but free time on their hands.
Correct. The World Economic Forum Partnership Against Cybercrime, and the person running it is a former Israeli spy named Tal Goldstein. He created the cybersecurity policy for Mossad, and that then became front companies to spy on the public without wearing a government face or badge. So for all these people that are pro-Israel and Zionists, they don't realize that the government of that country has taken the military strategies of the Gestapo and has turned that on their own people.
The other thing is that they also took them cues from the Chinese. And basically, anytime you log into your tablet computer, what they do is they give you like a free app or something. And that app is so intrusive, you're not realizing that you're volunteering your information. You're giving away information. And these motherfuckers are gobbling it up. Yeah, they've been learning those lessons from the Chinese.
Elon Musk is now in the news again for discussing how he wants to create his own town in Texas so that he can run this town without any obstructions. He can run it his way. Now, that automatically sounds like some type of old robber baron dude from the Old West.
That's funny as hell. That is some Rockefeller. That's some Rockefeller shit.
Correct. That's some There Will Be Blood type of shit. That movie.
And you're laughing, but you're laughing. But the example of that is when Henry Ford couldn't get that done over here. What did he do? he started his own towns and cities in South America for rubber. What it was, rubber cost so much, so he set up towns for where they would make rubber the way he wanted to make his tires. And literally, he was a fucking dictator. Work people to death, abuse people, all that shit. So yeah,
And anti-Semitic.
Yeah, yes, very anti-Jewish. But you just need to be aware of that shit.
Right. So what a lot of people don't know is the guy that helped start NASA, the former Nazi, Werner von Braun.
Werner von Braun.
He wrote a book toward the end of his life. It was a work of fiction, but this book talked about how there was an expansion of humanity to other planets, and one of those planets was Mars. And the chancellor or the ruler of Mars was called Elon. And the name of the king or the rulers on Mars, they were called Elon. So Elon is another way of saying king. What does this guy want to do? He wants to go to Mars so he can be king. He's showing you what he is doing by starting this town in Texas as a rough draft for what it's going to be like on Mars. And all these yuppies keep saying, oh yeah, well, I'll be an early adopter. I want that phone. I want that electric car. I want this. I want all the latest technology. You're going to have that. You're going to have all the self-driving cars in this town. You're going to have solar roads. You're going to have everything, but you're going to have cameras everywhere. Your behavior has to be a certain way.
You got somebody telling you what's best for you. You fall for that.
People think that him buying Twitter is a good thing. Him buying Twitter is him practicing governance. That's what that is. Nobody can see this for what it really is.
Hold it. He's disguising it, though. First things first, Twitter was being censored, but he's censoring it more. Have you? Do you know I got blocked on Twitter because they said I haven't been active enough, and I can't. They said I was a troll, and I can't have my Twitter account back. This is since Elon took over. Now I ain't doing nothing posting, black stuff. You know what I'm saying? But literally, the reason he bought it is because he said he was being censored. He's saying Trump is being censored. Yeah, the conservatives were being censored on there. Not everybody else is being censored, and he owns it outright. So the problem is, whatever somebody else criticizes somebody else is doing, they end up doing it. We've complained about Elon for a while. I've told people, you've heard me talk. I said that dude's on the spectrum. I think he's a little autistic. And people are like, oh, I'm not joking. I think he's autistic. I don't know. People think because he does all this stuff, he's intelligent. It's not. He has money. And when you have enough money like that, you can come up with an idea and you can implement it. And remember, he was supposed to come up with that phone, the Pi, whatever. This shit ain't happened. Remember, he was supposed to come out with the electric truck. That truck was ugly as fuck. But because it's Elon, some kind of way we give him, it gives it legitimacy when really some of these ideas are just him trying to jump out there in the market before everybody else. He's not so unique. He's not so special. And it's really hard to get people, because he's a nice billionaire. He's nicer than the others.
But see,
people don't want to talk.
There's a lot of interplay going on, and it's not as monolithic as people think. And the fact that truck didn't come out right away, I think the big three motor companies stepped in and said, hey, settle down. Okay, we need to come out with our shit. No. They could have put any kind of badge or any type of imagery or body on that truck. It wouldn't have made a difference. It was the technology. This truck was running circles around conventional trucks, and that was a problem for the big three and their truck sales. So because of that, they were like, hey, settle down. Here's some hush money. Go play with your rockets, and you deal with these self-driving cars that are running people over. And then we'll stick to the trucks and we'll come out with our electric vehicles. And now you see all the big three coming out with their electric vehicles. But listen, the reason why I say there's interplay is because you have all these different groups involved. See, this Next Gen 911, which is this program that is owned and controlled by Carbine 911, that was money that was put up by Peter Thiel and Jeffrey Epstein and the Israelis. So the only problem is they can't have this pedophile human trafficker associated with what they're doing. So, of course, he had to go because everything came out that he was the ring man, but he's not. He's the face man. Ghislaine and her Mossad daddy were the ones that were really pulling all the strings.
Look, this is they love to compromise people, and that's how they get. That's how they get the way. You've seen it over and over. You see it at the Playboy Mansion. You see it all the time. Whenever they have these groups or whatever you want to call them, these they always they compromise people. The music
Okay,
industry. We
but
talked
they
about it.
only put people in power that can be compromised. They will not put a strong willed, righteous person into these positions. They will not put these people into the media. Yeah, they'll get into the media, but they'll only get so far. There's a reason why the music that you like or the actors that you like that have a lot of virtue, they only go so far because the people that are willing to play ball, and I mean BAAL, willing to play ball with these people are the ones that go all the way to the top. When you see these people bending over backwards to please these
Uh-oh.
people, like John
I'm
Cena,
about to go there.
these people who have all these sex tapes. Listen, what people don't realize is that the MK Ultra now is so strong that it is almost bulletproof. And here's why. Look at the progression. One day, people are going to look back and see the Kardashians as the Benjamin Franklins of thoughts. Okay?
Dude, don't even
So,
go there.
but listen, this is the crazy part. So, they had to bring in the Kardashians to create this slow motion demolition of values in this country. Now, the crazy thing is that it's not just values of white people, it's values of black people. It's infected all of the young girls. Why are little girls so important? Because little girls are becoming mothers. And when they
They're
become
impressionable.
mothers, they raise children. And then when they
They're
raise
so
those
impressionable.
children, they have the greatest influence over those children. So what do? You're creating this idiocracy, microwave instant ready society, which has no brain, doesn't fight back, doesn't question anything, and takes whatever narrative is thrown at them.
Look, we don't hold it. There was a point I wanted to make earlier. Hey, there's an interview with Joe Rogan. I think he's talking to Matthew McConaughey, and he asked Matthew, "Are you religious?" He said, "I'm spiritual, but I'm religious also." He said, "I'm straight up religious." He said, "I'm at these award shows, and people I've prayed with, we pray in private together. Like, hey, we pray. Then all of a sudden, out there, when somebody gets on stage and say, I accept this award for Jesus Christ," and those same people look around and won't clap. He said they're so scared to show that they're Christians that he's like, "I just prayed with you. We just had a session." And so that he said that's how powerful that elite is in Hollywood. That people won't even like. He said back in the day when the first thing somebody got on the stage was, "Hey man, my Lord and Savior Jesus." He said, "Nope, won't even do it." And if somebody does do it, you got to look around and see who's clapping. That's how complete it is. That's how powerful this MK Ultra. That's how powerful the influence is. Where you're scared, like, hey, you know what? I like God in the afterlife, but I don't watch myself here. That's fucked up. And about the Kardashian thing, this is like, again, this goes back to our 2 podcasts ago, where we kind of talked about Martin Luther King and that movement getting its traction in the young people. When young people, you indoctrinate them, you get a hold of them as soon as you can, because if you do that, like you said, these young girls are becoming mothers early. And I'm not talking bad about people becoming mothers early. What I'm saying is that they adopt mind traits very early, and they'll disseminate that to their offspring, not realizing it. And the problem with that Kardashian, that value system is not realistic. And you got some rich people influencing poor people to behave like rich people, but they don't have any money. And that can be detrimental, not understanding what it means and getting sucked up in it and worrying about brands and I need a Prada purse just to go to school. Shit like that. Oh, I can't get my hair done. I can't attend school. Shit like that. Um, a lot of those things are not realistic goals, and you're putting those on people. And like I said, my brother's telling you that when he talks about MK Ultra, he's talking about mind control being that. Back in the day, they had to experiment on people. The CIA in the 70s got in trouble for the shit it did to people. Now they don't even need permission. As long as they own enough stock in the company, they don't need permission to go through your shit because they're part owner of the company. So they're going through your cell phone, they're going through your files. We also something else that we talked about is, you know, one of the ways they get you is this early adopter of technology. They love to use healthcare. We know it's next. They're going to have you. Hey, first they're going to give you some free technology like a watch that's going to monitor your heart rate and your sleeping patterns. Do you know how? Basically, they can tell if you're home or not, or like, okay. So can you imagine you have a court case, and you're like, hey, nah, I was at home sleep. But then all of a sudden they take your heart monitor, like, no, you weren't. It shows you were out running, or it shows you were you're giving your own revenant away. You're giving your own permission for these people to invade your privacy on a epic level. It's very difficult because people are so, like you said, because of the Kardashians, because of these TV shows. I got to have the first watch. I got to have the first cell phone. I got to have the first automatic driving car. I got to have this, and it gives these people the information on where you're going when you're there. Even right now, when you log in at work, your iPad and your cell phone both log in also. People know your location. And, first thing out your mate's mouth, oh, you're at work. Well, yeah, I'm at work. You know I'm at work. But it's saying that because you logged into the work's Wi-Fi. People love to say, what's the big deal? I have nothing to hide. Yes, you do. It's called privacy. Privacy, and for the sake of privacy. It doesn't have to do with anything else. And like I said, they love to give you technology. They love to take you these TV shows. They love to get a hold of your kids early on. And that's what they're doing. So when my brother tells you MK Ultra has been perfected, excuse me, I don't like saying that shit, but it's true.
Here's the thing you need to understand. One could say, oh, it was drugs that created this moral downfall of society. Mm-hmm. No. So it's how these things are used, okay?
And how they got there. They didn't get there by accident.
Right, but you have to go back even further, because if you look at white America's reaction to rock and roll, and when Chuck Berry started playing that electric guitar for them white kids, they lost their mind. But then some white dude named Elvis, the Justin Timberlake of his time, took these black moves and this sound and copied it and put this white face on it. And the way the white girls lost their mind about Elvis meant there was sexual repression. This Protestant Catholic society, white America, that was deep into subjugating two other races, a black one and a red one at the same time, had issues of its own. So then, around that time, all of the lessons that came from World War II and all the Nazi information that they brought over with them, and the Nazis themselves, they used that. They got some LSD from a Swiss guy that made it by accident at Sandoz Laboratories in Switzerland, Albert Hofmann, and then they figured out how they could use that to influence people and to control their minds. So then once they kind of got it down, then they put it together with music. So when I talk about MK Ultra being leveled up, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an analogy. Think of how music started on LPs, right? Long play records. And then it went to tape. And then from tape, it went to compact disc. And from compact disc, it went to digital. Now, the devil has been infiltrating music since music was created.
It's an inception, yes.
Check this out. So then there's a technique of deception that has been with music every step of the way since its beginning. With the technological advances, it becomes faster and easier to share this music, easier to access this music, okay? So then what you have is a vehicle at that point. Now the same applies for motion pictures and television. Film, movies shot on film, projected in theaters, watched on televisions. Started with home projectors, 16 millimeter, and then there was VHS, and then there was DVD, and then Blu-ray, and now we have 4K digital. The same applies for music that it does to visuals. So now you have these tools that you can take this message, you can take these lessons that you learned in Nazi concentration camps, essentially became sound design in movies, and how they make you feel a certain way by just playing a sound and layering sounds. They learned that in Nazi concentration camps.
Yeah, they learned they could torment people by playing certain sounds and not letting them sleep,
right,
driving them crazy.
Or they could put them to sleep by playing certain things after they worked them to death in these factories they had them building shit for them. So then you have these technologies that advance audio and visual, and now you can compress this now. Compression technology going forward to about 2005, where you saw this huge leap in compression technology where you can go beyond the quality of DVD compression, and you can stream that.
Little message in there.
And you can stream this. And now you have Bluetooth. So you can stream stuff over Bluetooth now. You have these tiny little radio transmitters, these radio towers everywhere. You have a radio tower in your pocket now. You have a radio tower in your ear, on your head. So then take that a step further. Everything I said about motion pictures and music. And then take that a step further with computer transistor technology that has been shrunken down to the size of a pinhead. Now you take that and you put that into a phone, and you have one of the greatest opiates ever created, because it gives you this dopamine rush. It's tricking your brain into doing something that it would do naturally. So this thing is masturbating your brain and getting a response out of you. They realize what this does. So marketing people, naturally, they love this stuff, because now they're like, we got the best dope now. We got the best junkies. We got the best dope. They won't say no. We just got to keep our jingles tight. Now, here we are, and we have all this technology is being beamed here and there. There's V2K, voice to skull technology, where they can beam words, images, sounds into your skull from a remote location. They don't even have to be on site. They can send it through your 5G system, beam it right into your head, because guess what? You're wearing these earbuds that have been shown to record your phone conversations, even when the phone is not on. They can record your conversations when the phone is not in the room. And that thing needs to be near you, and it's recording. Why is it recording? Who told it to record? Where is the audio and the data going to? See, I just told you earlier how the Israeli Mossad has created this cybercrime program, and they created front companies to exploit this technology and to use it on their own people. Of course, American law enforcement is using this. Of course, these federal agencies are using this. Why? Because what do? They trickle down all this stuff from the Israelis, because they saw how they can take an apartheid state and profit from that. So then that's why you have these police that are being trained by former ISF military forces on policing. Now, what do they know about policing American people? Nothing, but they know how to suppress Palestinians. So they're teaching you these Palestinian suppression techniques to the cops. So which then, of course, they're beating the shit out of people, because that's what they do. They shoot babies. These coward-ass snipers in the Israeli army, they get bored and they just shoot little kids with sniper rifles. Dude, so when I tell you that MK Ultra has been perfected, it has. But now let's put another layer on that. Because when you put that technology in the hand of a person that practices the dark arts, that uses binding spells in court, because attorneys are essentially magicians that use words to create binding spells to silence you, to prohibit you. Those are binding spells. That's magic they practice in court. But you don't realize it because you consider it as legalese.
Give it reverence. You think you believe that shit because we've been conditioned to think.
Yes, because of propaganda and the bald eagle and a flag and apple pie, and you think justice and this and that.
The English language alone is about casting spells. That's why it's called spelling. And me and you had said this years ago, and now I'm seeing people who are coming out saying the same thing that me and you said. Like, look, why is it called, when you create a word, it's called spelling. Why is it called spell when you cast a spell? Because you're doing the same thing.
Okay.
You're putting something together.
So then you put this technology into the people who practice dark arts. And then these people who are eschatologists, which is a person who wants to escalate the movement of social times all the way until the end time. Why do you want to bring about the end? Because you worship darkness and you want chaos and destruction, which is why it would make sense that these reality TV shows would be allowed to even be on TV, because they lower the values of people. Look at how criminals and criminal behavior is so encouraged, and the anti-hero, everybody's all about an anti-hero. Listen, the anti-hero in stories and in comics and in cinema, in music, is just a tool. He is the ferryman that's controlling the boat that is bringing darkness across the river to you.
He's the every man. That's how they get you. The other thing that me and you always complain about, that CERN collider. But you saw in the Bible, they talk about, we know, Satan, we know where you dwell. And they say when you look it up, it's in Geneva. Funny place is, Geneva is exactly where the CERN collider is. And we've talked about that shit over and over. Why? When they first opened that thing up and they did that damn ceremony with the people dancing around and goats' heads and shit like that, We told y'all there's something bad resides there. Supposedly based on biblical terms, that's where Satan resides. So that's that big deal with that CERN collider. Why are they doing that shit? Why do they keep and then they show you. When I say they show you, they straight up show you these ceremonies beforehand that have nothing. That ain't no Christian ceremony. I know that. Now I ain't saying Christianity better than everybody else, but I just know that it's funny. People don't. If you talk about religion right now, people always, oh, you can't talk about Christianity. But they sit here and have these fucking satanic rituals right in your face. Whether it's the Grammys, whether it's the Oscars, whether it's this opening of this CERN collider. You sit here and watch this shit, and you're like, I don't get it, but okay, cool, because they're famous, or okay, cool, because they're talking about this technology. I'm interested. No, they're conditioning you, and they're doing spiritual shit. Yeah, they're doing shit right in front of your face, and because, like I said, because you want that technology, because you want that money, or worse, because of social media, you want to be popular. You accept that bullshit, and you don't call them on it. And now our kids are indoctrinated to it, or they're used to it, or they're addicted to the shit. Yeah, this is some fucked up shit. And like I said, they love to use the word, like we talk about medical and safety. Like I said, that's how they're gonna get you with the next one. When they start putting those body implants in you, that's how they're gonna get you hooked on them. They're like, we can monitor your heart rate. I'm diabetic. We can monitor your blood sugars. We can tell when you have a problem. I know when I got a problem.
Right.
Fat ass H.
But they can also monitor your speaking and what you're doing. So
maybe even your thoughts, if eventually. And then this time Minority Report shit. So I'm gonna get in trouble for thinking some shit,
dude. So I know somebody that bought one of those Sleep Number beds, and
I dig it.
He has an app on his phone. I don't dig it.
Why do you need an app?
Check it out. So I'm looking at this, and I'm like, what is all this? What is it supposed to be? And he showed to me like what it does. And then he said it can monitor my heart rate. It can monitor my respiration, how fast or slow I'm breathing. It can monitor how much I move. And I'm like, wait. So this bed has all these sensors, and it has transmitters because it's sending data to your phone because your phone is recording this. So
send it to somebody.
So you're sleeping on top of a miniature Wi-Fi router. So, boys and girls, if you haven't learned, we have told you many times before that Wi-Fi routers are dangerous.
Unhealthy.
And it's dirty electricity.
This comes from the 50s, though. This is not new technology. That's another thing that we've been confused, that when they put something out that it's new, that technology is over 30, 40, 50 years old. Yes,
but we always tell you to turn off the Wi-Fi router before you go to sleep so that your nervous system can have a break and you can get true restful sleep, and that the cells of your body are not slowly boiling. But when you got a Sleep Number bed, oh no, it's good, I get a great night's sleep. I know you do right now, but you're not telling you how you're going to have cancer later on because you're sleeping on a microwave. You're sleeping on an electrical conduit. That is not good. It's like electric blankets. When they first came out, everybody thought electric blankets were the cat's meow and they were great. Electric blankets are no good for you. To be sleeping with underneath a electrical current like that, that is not healthy for your nervous system.
Hey, I remember getting in a fight in college because of that. Like, we were in the dorms and you weren't allowed to have microwaves. So the microwave was hid under my bed. And so I was laying down asleep, and my roommate, homeboy, started using the microwave. I'm like, dude, you frying my nut. And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, yes, you really are. You don't do that when somebody's that close to a microwave. We had an argument. I had to fight the guy about it. Like, okay, cool. I bet you won't do it again. I'm like, literally,
But wasn't it yours, though?
Huh?
Was the microwave yours?
No, it was my roommate's microwave. We hid it under my bed because, the way the beds were set up.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, look, here's the deal. It's like, we learn all this stuff about technology. You learn what's good for you, what's bad for you. But then when fashion kicks in, all of a sudden you just eliminate everything that you learned. And don't get me wrong, they have indoctrinated us, and they probably told us a lot of shit that's not true. I get that, but microwaves are radiation, and people will argue with you about it. That's not radiation. Cell phones are radiation. People will argue it's not radiation. Now it's coming out. Like, you're not supposed to have your cell phone in your pocket near your nuts. You're not supposed to have the cell phone near your head. You're supposed they're telling you should use your speak function where you don't hold it next to your forehead or next to your brain.
Use wired headphones.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's inconvenient, but that's the most healthy way. Those wired headphones are normal, So what it is that you made it fashion for me to have wireless headphones. You made it like, in fact, I'm spending more money
But
to
see,
kill
the
myself
wireless
for
headphones turns
$200.
your skull into a speaker box.
And so, but that's the thing. It's in style. Beats by Dre. So of course I want to have these so I look fashionable and people admire me. But the whole time I'm disintegrating my own brain. I'm giving myself cancer. I'm making myself go blind or messing up my own hearing. I'm doing this shit willingly. So what do you do when you're being stupid willingly? You have all you do is educate somebody. I argue all the time over stuff like nonstick pans. Like, hey, that shit ain't necessary. Put some butter down, shut the fuck up. Literally because that stuff is giving you Alzheimer's. That stuff is fucking with your neural system. All these new products. And here's the crazy part. Why are some things illegal in some states and not legal in others? Like right now, if you go to California, they have all kinds of warnings on these air fryers. Not all of them, but a lot of them have different shit on them. But you go to New York, they're fine. But then you go to New York, there's certain things that are illegal in New York. This candy is illegal here because it has chlorium and it has this and it has that in it. But so literally every state you go to has different things that are legal and illegal for health purposes. So you would think that shit would be, across the nation. Like, okay, if it's illegal here, if it's not deemed safe here, it shouldn't be safe here. If this ain't, but it doesn't work like that. Literally, based on where you live, things are accepted and not accepted. And the point I'm making is that, like, we should be given the information and then we should decide how we feel about it. But instead, they put that shit in a box with a red label on it, and we like the color red, and we attribute it with food. Like, literally, fast food places all got red in the label because that shit is unhealthy. But we like the color.
But that's the whole thing, though. My body, my choice. I should be allowed to decide what I put into my body, whether it's health related
100.
or for recreational purposes.
But they're not giving you all the information. Like literally.
No, but you're not even being given choices in some circumstances.
Yes, that's true. Because one, they brainwash you into thinking that the shit is okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, the hustle. When you sit here, okay, I'm gonna give an example of some bullshit. One reason most people have high blood pressure is lack of calcium. Now, the first thing out of somebody's mouth is I drink milk all the time. Milk is not a good source of calcium. Milk has calcium. Milk is not a good source of calcium. The best sources of calcium are plants. You've been saying that shit.
Collard greens, spinach.
Yeah, there's other shit out there even better than that. But it's the reason our blood pressure is high is lack of calcium. And because we've been brainwashed into thinking that milk products are the best and only source of calcium, you might be, if you eat all the cheese in the world, all it's going to do is make you constipated. It's not going to stop lower your blood pressure. It's not going to give you. But we were taught that when we were in second and third grade, milk is a good source of calcium. No, it is not. Milk is a source, but ain't nothing good about it.
That's because we were taught that because of the FDA and the dairy industry were all through those schools. Dude, we would have a break in the middle of the school day, and they would bring us cheese and milk. Do you remember that?
I remember chocolate milk all the damn time.
Yeah, but I remember like the lunch ladies would come around and they would give us cheese and chocolate milk like at 10 o'clock in the morning before lunch. Like, here you go, here's some cheese and some milk. And I'm like, why?
The dairy industry had infiltrated us so badly. And they had created a budget. They were spending like tens of millions of dollars a year back in the 70s and 80s. Just kids need milk. And our parents didn't know any better. They droned that into your head. But milk is not a good source of calcium. And that's the hustle. It literally is so much saturated fat and so much other stuff in there that's fucking up, clogging your arteries and other hormones in there, making you sick, giving you tits as a kid, that kind of shit. And so, but because those commercials and because they had that funding and because they, like my brother just told you, they infiltrated our school systems, we were indoctrinated. And like I said, indoctrinated. So it's just in your head, like, okay, milk is the best source of calcium. No, it's not.
Check this out. So people often wonder, like, well, are these elite people, really out to get us? I mean, do they really care about us? If they're doing this for a purpose?
They don't care either way.
Why? Like, why are they doing this? It's because they see us as the source of chaos that they want to control because we are the ones that are getting in the way of their plans and creating problems for them. We're causing all the problems, but that is nothing but gaslighting. And so then that brings me to this document that sums up the research that was conducted at the Air Force Research Laboratory at Elgin Air Force Base in Florida in tandem with the University of Florida Gainesville and the Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering. This document was released almost 10 years ago. All right, this thing came out in 2014, and it's called Containment Control for a Social Network with State-Dependent Connectivity. And in this paper, social interactions are studied within a group of individuals composed of influential social leaders and followers. Each person is assumed to maintain a social state, which can be an emotional state or an opinion. I'm going to say that again. Each person is assumed to maintain a social state, which can be an emotional state or an opinion, all up in the fields. Followers update their social states based on the states of local neighbors, while social leaders maintain a constant desired state. Social interactions are modeled as a general directed graph where each directed edge represents an influence from one person to another, motivated by the non-local property of fractional order systems. The social response of individuals in the network are modeled by fractional order dynamics whose states depend on influences from local neighbors and past experiences. So, let me break this down for you, because they created an algorithm for this, which they could hand over a computer to AI eventually. And so this, basically, it's the Air Force research on how to use social media to control people like drones. Okay, so containment control, that model looks at how groups of Containment control model looks at how groups of influencers can manipulate people. The language in that paper was being used to mathematically describe the interaction between people and products. It was the same language that people use in controlling groups of autonomous vehicles. Let that sink in for a second there. That language was graph theory, the mathematical language that is the basis of Facebook's graph database and the entity databases at the heart of Google and Bing's understanding of context around searches. It also became a fundamental part of control systems for directing swarms of autonomous robots. There it is again. These Spectrum, OCD, motherfucking Asperger motherfuckers, man. The connection inspired researchers to want to investigate the connection further. Can you apply? Hold on. Wait. Well, can you apply the same math to controlling autonomous people to groups of people?
What if autism is on purpose? Because
it is. There are certain medical procedures. We're not going to say the word. There are certain medical procedures that children are given when they're born. Okay, and these injections tend to have adverse effects. All right.
And so if you're autistic, then you would fall in this spectrum, because they use the word spectrum. So if you're following autistic spectrum, there might be a chance that you're easier to control, more palatable for these people in charge. See, you were saying some very deep shit earlier when you were talking about the people that were in charge and the idea that we're out of control. No, what you got to understand, for you to be in charge, you got to have somebody to be in charge of, right? You can't be a king without a kingdom. So literally, it might be too many people. We'll kill off some of the people, but they still worship us. They still admire us. They still make us richer. So the idea that this planet is overcrowded is poppy time.
Right. Now marry that with the fact that there's cliques and there's groups that have wildly divergent belief systems, but they have common goals. You have the Marxists, the communists. You have the Moloch worshippers and the devil worshippers, which are two different groups. You have the secret societies, which are just umbrellas of those two. You have all these different groups. You have religious fanatics. Yes, you have eschatologists. These people have a common goal. Some of them, just because they want to advance so much, they belong to more than one of those groups.
like I said, they don't agree on how to achieve the goal, but they do agree on the goal. And that's the craziest part. This is something that black people haven't learned yet. We don't have a common goal, but since we don't agree how to get there, we fight amongst ourselves. They're just the opposite. They don't agree how to get there, but that goal is more important than them infighting. So they will agree on certain methods and make sure those methods are done just so they can stay in power, just so that people, because like I said, you know, we tend to believe that nowadays that you have to agree with somebody to get along. You don't have to agree anymore. That's not how it was back in the day. Americans did not agree on shit, but we were Americans first, and so it was time to fight. We all came together. The racists came together with the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers came together with feminists. Everybody came together from these different groups just to accomplish a goal. Now it's completely different. Your individual goal outshines the major goal. Well, these people, these elitists, they're not burdened by that. All they know is that they know how to control you, and they can put shit in place to control you, whether it's money, whether it's desire, whether it's medical, whether it's mind control, whether it's physical, whether it's lust, whether it's pornography. They use all this different shit to control people and alienate people. You wonder how these people get blackmailed? My brother told you earlier, they got sex tapes on everybody. And what do you do when your TV's recording you and you don't realize it? What do you do when your cell phone's recording you and you don't realize it? So now that they got a tape of you doing some shit, so you don't want your wife, your mother, your partner, or the other people to know what you're doing, and so they blackmail you. Like literally, you got people trying to blackmail you on your computer. I had somebody on my computer send me a note one time, like, "Hey man, I know what you're watching. Give me some money." I'm like, "Dude, if you know that much about me, then you know I'm broke. Shit, do what you do. Expose me, motherfucker. Don't bother me. Shit." But that's the whole thing, is that people prey on these insecurities, and like these rich elite. They come together and they do that shit. They might not agree on the Satan, or they might not agree on Lucifer. They might not agree on Baal. They might not agree on Mephistopheles, but they damn sure agree on controlling your black ass, or white ass, or Hispanic ass, or Asian ass, or whatever ass you got.
So the Air Force Research Laboratory often works on robotics, and some of those researchers were connected with researchers in the same group that were interested in social media topics. But once they received the funding, the research team worked to model how collaboration between influencers and social media networks could affect the behavior of groups within the network by using the principle of containment control. Think of the concept this way. There's a group of leaders, each with their own objectives, and they have their own topic of emphasis. The goal is to have those people change their opinion or coerce the group of followers, which are people in the social group of these people, but don't know the level of the objective. So basically, what they're saying is they want to have the influencers say, okay, let me break it down this way. If there's a different influencers start tweeting and talking about, hey, Black Lives Matter. And then they're like, yeah, of course, Black Lives Matter. But we should start protesting this. As long as the influencers from the different groups can get everybody talking about and protesting about that thing, but they don't understand why they're protesting it, or they're not allowed to discuss, or those discussions are shadow banned, you cannot see the invisible hand. That's what that just said right there.
You killed the communication. Like I said, you know we're supposed to be marching and protesting, but we don't know why. We don't understand the idiosyncrasies.
I'll say, I'm going to read this part again so everybody can let this sink in. There's a group of influencers, each which has their own objectives, and they have their own topic of emphasis. The goal is to have those people change the opinion or coerce the group of their followers, which are people in the social group of these people, but the followers don't know the high level objective. Dude, that's some COINTELPRO shit.
Yeah, hold it. Those last protests we had for George Floyd, how many of those Antifa motherfuckers were doing that shit where they were literally paid? We talked about this. I seen it myself on Craigslist. We're paying you $23 an hour to protest. We have lawyers. This is what this shit said. You can't make this up. I'm like, whoa. When me and you grew up, we marched a couple times for, like, when the shit went down with Rodney King. There was no Antifa. Nobody was paying you. You just knew, like, this guy got beat up by some cops.
But you know what? You know what? You know why they want protesters? Because it creates high drama. It's theater.
Oh, yeah.
It's theater. Nobody is telling anybody to go out and be ninja saboteurs. Nobody is telling these people to, hey, go to this place and demolish this and get the fuck out of there before you're noticed. Nobody is saying that.
Go back to the George Floyd protests when these motherfuckers were saying, who the fuck are putting these bricks in our community? There were pallets of bricks being delivered, and you
Dude,
black folks.
That takes a forklift to get off of a truck. Hey, hold on. Let me tell you something. That shit takes equipment that either you own or you have to go and rent this, which means there's receipts for all of this stuff.
Look, here's the point we're making. Have you ever tried to build a house? They don't give you no free bricks, my nigga. But if you try to protest and do some shit, they give you free bricks. What the fuck? You know what I'm saying? And then they get delivered free also. Like, so they want you to destroy your own community. They want you to tear this shit up just to make a point. And like I said, is it Antifa? Is it these other motherfuckers? I don't know. But all I know is this. One of the points that Charleston White, he's a black guy that drives you crazy, but he was like, y'all shouldn't have been marching over George Floyd. He was a criminal. He was a piece of shit, yada, yada. But what he was really saying is that at that exact same time, a 11-year-old or 12-year-old boy was killed by the police, had a fake gun. When his sister runs out to stop the police, like, hey, he's just a kid, they body slammed her and beat her up at the exact same time.
You talking about Tamir Rice?
No, it's another one. Okay. This was happening during George. The kid was 11 or 12, playing with a gun. The sister tries to, like, hey, cops, he's just a kid. They couldn't wait to shoot that little nigga. And so that's what the reason he's like, look, there was some shit going on, real talk, that got no publicity. And so, not that I don't like his methods, he's a dick sometimes, but what he's saying is that it's odd how the news takes the agenda for you. We're going to talk about George Floyd, even though there's all these other cases that were way more, I don't want to say valid, it's not the word, they were way more just, that needed real attention, that showed real crazy shit. Look, it's so, we get it that the media is owned, or whatever the word is, manipulated, but what do? Like you've talked about it a long time, watch the news from overseas, read real books. It's so hard for you to get.
Okay, let me finish the part. I'm talking about this. Let me finish this thing about this document. So going back to the mathematical language graph theory that was used as the basis of Facebook's graph database and the quote-unquote entity databases at the heart of Google and Bing's search engines. So using graph theory, researchers created a model to find the mathematics behind how much influence a social media leader needs in order to exert power and shift behavior. So listen to this. So in order to exert power and shift, I got to read this again. Listen. Using graph theory, researchers create a model to find the mathematics behind how much influence a social media influencer needs to exert power and shift behavior. My man, this is MK Ultra. Listen. Hold it. Hold your fire. No, I got a question. Okay, I'm answering in a second. This research, like many of DARPA's studies, did not perform real world research to confirm its. Like many of DARPA's studies, did not perform real world research to confirm findings. It was all simulation. And that's a tipping point.
That's not illegal.
That's a tipping point for taking this work further. One that Cornell Social Media Lab researchers hurdled with Facebook, creating an outcry in the process. To that end, this SMISC program has pushed for experimental environments that use closed social networks on the DARPA project page. This was 9 years ago. What the fuck do you think they're doing now with these algorithms they created 9 years ago and they fed them to AI?
Hey, it's two things I want to bring up. Hey, like me years ago, me and you would talk about these new artists. Like, how the fuck are they getting money? Who the fuck is listening to this stupid people? This music is garbage, and it makes you wonder, like, how much of his social influence are bots, are fake motherfuckers, clicking on shit, like when you find out like how much money Rihanna has, like, goddamn, from mascara, from makeup, or you find out like,
Dude, they're posers. AI in disguise.
well, the reason I bring this up, see, okay, back in the day, you, there's a video out right now. People keep saying Jay-Z was never the best rapper. How the fuck did he get to where he is? You remember when Jay-Z and was it Stank on You or Quimini was whichever, it was Outkast and Jay-Z going back and forth, and Jay-Z and them niggas was buying their own albums, giving them away just to keep their sales up so they could be on par with Outkast. People, if you pay, that's social media right there. That is, you're faking it. You're bending the narrative. You're bending reality by buying your own albums and shit. Def Jam wanted to keep Jay-Z up there, and so but nobody remembers that shit. This is the same thing. Oh my God, this is the same. It's you're doing fake shit to influence real numbers, and so all of a sudden, if you say this guy is valid, if you say this chick is valid, and people believe, like, man, you see me follow. You literally look at the followers and you're like, okay, they must know what they're talking about. We don't know if those are real followers, my nigga. You can't tell if those are real numbers. But if you watch YouTube,
But that time, if you go back at that time in your memory, that was before before 9/11.
Oh yeah.
That was like
that was
99.
Yeah, yep. And it was bugging me back then. I'm like, this nigga, look. What I'm saying, it shows you that numbers influence behavior, but numbers also influence us because it makes us think these people are valid, or they have something to offer, or that guy's legit and she's not legit, or that kind of shit. And that's an easy way for them to manipulate you and get you. As for that DARPA shit, we're hearing. I remember the first time I heard DARPA was playing Metal Gear, and then after that you kind of look it up. You don't realize that there's a military arm that develops stuff for the civilian market, and that's DARPA. And they experiment, and they got flying cars, and they got all this crazy shit. So it's really important that you pay attention and learn who the fuck your enemies are and who's fucking with you. But oh my God, this is some deep shit. Sorry, go ahead, man. Because they're telling you they're experimenting.
Well, it's crazy because really, if you look at who the predecessors of DARPA was, these are all Bell Laboratories. And this is all the guys that took the UFO transistors and fiber optics and was like, using that and like finding ways to use that. That's where that came from. And where that came from? Well, those were the U.S. Army intelligence that was actually married to the Nazi scientists they brought over.
Operation Paperclip. Like you hear all these different things, and you don't. How do they come together? How do they tie? How do they bind? And it's about technology. It's about controlling people. It's about money. And then on top of that, when you realize that people are more powerful than we understood, that we're literally being capped. We're literally being given a fucking glass ceiling, so you don't excel.
What's crazy is that people they're so gullible, and it's crazy because like as I become an adult, and I have so much life experience now, people really haven't changed. It's crazy is that when I say people haven't changed, that's like you can give people all the technology they want. But there's still this large percentage of feeble-minded, afraid, scared people that want their creature comforts. And like Morgan Freeman said in that Cold Fusion movie, they want their microwave dinners,
People laugh, not realizing that he's talking about convenience is more important than reality. Convenience is more important than spirituality.
Well, see, but stop right there. Stop right there. Because what you just said really encapsulates their entire ideology, because this paper, this study from 2014 that involved the University of Florida, Gainesville, and the Air Force Research Lab at Eglin Air Force Base basically tells you that the influence that they can exert on reality is actually one of the most potent weapons that they seek to have, because that gets rid of all wars, or it creates artificial wars. And by creating by creating a false reality, then you can populate it with whatever type of theater and type of drama or tranquility that you want.
Oh my God. It just tells you that the government is involved with this shit. And whether you can go ask your senator right now, they may not know. They may not have enough clearance to answer the question you want. You're worried about UFOs, but you ain't worried about your own home planet. You know, we struggle with this shit. They give you these little bits of information for you to cling to, and you don't even Here's another thing I've dealt with in my personal life. There are people that love to gather information, but they can't do shit with it.
Yep. They're horrible at synchronicity translation. They don't know how to translate or put all the. They can get all the puzzle pieces. Like, look, I got this at a garage sale.
Not do shit with
and they can't do shit with it. And I'm like, well, you're just a collector.
Look. Here's the deal. And when people on the podcast will hear me say intelligent, and hear me say smart. Intelligent people are the people that can recite shit that they can read it, they can recite it. Smart people are the ones that do shit with it. Black folks used to be smart. They would give us information, we gather it and make light bulbs and make cotton gins and make shit like that. We would apply it to the real world and give it value. Now we're just so quick to gather information. Hey, I got stats. You got niggas that love stats when it comes to like basketball and sports and shit like that, but they can't play sports. You know, they try to analyze this shit. They can't do nothing with it. This makes this guy the GOAT. This makes this person the best. It's not who has the most. It's the person who affected you emotionally and affected the world around them the best. But the fact of the matter is, those people love stats, but they can't affect the world around them. They don't have the power or the reverence or the whatever to do that shit. And so that's why it's really important that you understand it's not about gathering information. It's about using information. You know, you can gather this shit, but if you can't apply it to the real world, man, that's just worthless, my nigga. It's just stats. It's not reality.
But we come back to what is reality. That's why it's so important that you turn off all that crap and go outside and feel the rain on your face. Feel the wind. Look at the sun shining when the rain stops. Go and touch the wet grass. Look at the worms that are crawling on the ground. Look at all these things, because that is real. But the problem is they can get you so hopped up on your feelings. They just tweaking you. You know, they're sending you this and they're sending you that. One time, years ago, I went to this like dinner party, and they sat everybody down in the living room, and they put on the Kim Kardashian sex tape. And I got up and I'm like, dude, I didn't want to see this. I didn't want to watch this. Like, you're manipulating everybody. And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, because, man, it's like one of you motherfuckers wanted to watch this shit. And you wanted everybody to watch this shit with you. But guess what? I don't feel like watching this bullshit right now. I'm out. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm not giving in to this shit. What are you talking about? I was like, dude, listen, sex is great. Sex is great, but you're not going to tell me when I'm going to be aroused. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to control when I'm aroused.
Look, I know Dr. Dre can be a dick or whatever, but one of the deepest things he said, this was back during the R. Kelly show.
I mean, like, isn't that creepy or what? Like, just watching porn in a group, like in a room with a bunch of people, and I'm like, what is this? What is this? What the fuck are we doing here?
No. What Dre said, he said, I do not want to know. He said, if you're talking about underage sex, I've never seen it. I will not see it. You know, you guys are telling me that he had sex with an underage girl. I don't need to watch the video. I believe y'all. this is Dre talking. He's like, nobody needs to show that to me. Nobody email it to me. I'm cool with it. Now, mind you, Dre's a woman beater. This nigga is not the best person. I get it.
People are shades of gray, man.
Yes. Hence the whole thing with Chris Rock, and the name of his show, what is that? Selective Outrage. One, I haven't watched it because Chris Rock hasn't been funny to me for years. Sorry, he has good writers. He doesn't have the nuance anymore. No, I like my two favorite Chris Rock jokes. I can tell you that's how bad it is. The first one, he was on this black show on HBO for black comics. Eddie Murphy was a producer, and he said, he talked about dirty magazines. He said, man, white folks got Hustler, Playboy. We got Player. We got one dirty magazine. It's one of his funny jokes. Another joke he had was when he said, if the child is calling the mama Pam, calling grandmama mama, he's probably going to jail. Those are the two funny jokes he's ever had to me. Like he'll make you chuckle. So the idea of me watching the show with Chris Rock, knowing that he's going to try to get back at Will Smith, it's a bunch of
that's some cool shit. That's some cool shit.
Yeah. That's a bunch of millionaires arguing. I can't relate. Don't give a fuck. He's not funny enough to where, like, literally, Dave Chappelle takes on a whole fucking sect of society every time he jokes. Whether he's taking on white folks, he's taking on black folks, or he's taking on the LBGT. He takes on everybody. He takes on the whole thing. So if you got a problem with what I say, you know where to find me. Chris Rock is taking on one nigga. It's not the same to me. It doesn't have the it's not something that I need to do. If you called me, because me and Roscoe, I trust you. When it comes to comedy, I trust this nigga.
But check this out. So in his new special, this motherfucker takes a page from what Chappelle does, and he starts talking about, what's politically correct and shit, and what isn't. Every comedian is doing that. But all of them were scared as fuck and afraid to do it until Chappelle was like, I'll do it. Watch this shit. Watch this bullshit.
Look, Chappelle got attacked by some nigga in nail
He
polish.
took the heat for everybody. And now everybody's... Listen, man. Now it's like this whole Me Too thing, which is completely artificial. Had nothing to do with black women or any woman of color. Right? It was a power grab. But the whole thing is that they, like... After all this time, now you're speaking up. Now.
Yes.
Now you're speaking up. Now it's convenient for you to speak up. You know what I'm saying? Okay. But you don't include nothing about children. See, that's what I'm saying. All these comedians now want to be politically incorrect again. I'm like, well, okay, but you weren't doing that a year and a half ago.
When you were afraid of losing your career, you changed your humor. Look.
When you're walking around all masked up, screaming at motherfuckers to wear a mask, and I'm like, but you was that same guy. But now you're doing this politically incorrect shit again. Okay.
Nigga, y'all was making fun of Bruce Willis. but now, that is your whole bit. It's your whole sketch. You know what I'm saying? Like, literally. You got motherfuckers in the NFL having heart attacks. None of y'all want to ask, did he get the jab? None of y'all want to ask, did the motherfucker take the red or blue pill? None of y'all want to ask that shit because you're afraid of the answer.
Listen, it goes back to what you said about Matthew McConaughey giving praise to Jesus on a microphone to a silent room.
He said, motherfuckers I just prayed with. They're afraid to clap. They're looking around like, do I clap? I'm not clapping. I need my career. Fuck that. Look, here's my philosophy. This is a very bad philosophy, so fuck y'all. Take it, run it with it. Make your $10 million and step out of society.
Pretty much. Like, don't try and stay in it for the long game, dude, because that ain't the game to play, man.
I know you didn't know I was going to say that because I heard you laughing there. So that's what drives you crazy about these football players, these athletes, these elite motherfuckers. When they sit there and they have enough money, they can step away. The whole Kyrie thing. Like, the reason they punished Kyrie is because when they went to court and that judge said, you got to pay this nigga his money, all of a sudden, then you got mad at him for something else. The bottom line is that motherfucker has enough money to step away from society. And hey, y'all don't realize that nigga's a Native American. He got his name. He knows his bloodline. So when you find out, like, that kind of shit, like, you respect that nigga so much more. Like, I get it that he might have been a dick at one point, but, fuck it. Once you get that 20, 30 million, hey, y'all can't tell me shit. Kanye, they took billions of dollars. He still has $500 million. That nigga's not starving.
Listen, man. These dudes they're addicted to hype. Okay,
yeah.
After you made all that money, happens. Like, so you telling me you're making shitty investments? Can't you just live off your investments and just shut the fuck up?
What? Hold it. That's the whole thing. Is that look at the old athletes. All the old black athletes all got taken by their money managers. They all got taken by their lawyers. They all got screwed up. And you're like, damn. Like, are you not watching at all? You know what I'm saying? Like literally, like, hey, okay. When you got kids and you got food, you got cookies or whatever, you gotta count some cookies every once in a while. Because I know at some point that little 3 or 4 year old's gonna take them cookies. Like they might not take one at a time. Next thing you know, half the cookies are gone. That's how it is when it's with your money, nigga. You gotta glance at that shit. You can't trust them kids, nigga. You can't trust them. And so that's what y'all doing. Y'all putting your trust in people because what you wanted. When I managed my wife as a singer, I went through this. She just wants to sing and perform. She doesn't care how you do it. That's a problem. You done made this money. You want somebody to take care of it for you. You can't trust nobody with all that much money. You need to invest that shit yourself. You got Waka Flocka telling you what to do with it. You got people telling you now. So there's no excuse. There's no excuse anymore. Fuck that shit. But if you ain't watching the cookies, somebody gonna eat them. That's all I'm saying.
That's all I got. We out. Peace.
Holla back.